Eleanor Montgomery had been dying for 6 months, though the doctors couldn't quite say from what. At 78, she'd simply started fading. Loss of appetite, weakness, confusion, a steady decline that no test could fully explain and no treatment could stop. Her son, Jonathan Montgomery, had spared no expense. Private nurses around the clock, the best specialists in the country, experimental treatments, a fully equipped medical suite in the guest house of his estate. Jonathan had built a tech empire worth $2 billion. Surely money could solve this. But every day, his mother got worse. Jonathan stood in the doorway of her room, watching the overnight nurse check vitals. Eleanor lay in the hospital bed he'd had installed, frail and small, nothing like the vibrant woman who'd raised him alone after his father died. The woman who'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college, who'd believed in him when his first 3 startups failed. Now she barely recognized him most days. "Any change?" Jonathan asked. The nurse shook her head. "She's refusing food again. We're maintaining hydration through the 4, but she needs nutrition. Dr. Carlson wants to discuss a feeding tube." "No tubes," Jonathan said firmly. His mother had been clear about that, while she still could be. No extraordinary measures. Let nature take its course. But watching nature take its course was destroying him. After the nurse left for her break, Jonathan sat beside his mother's bed. "Mom, can you hear me? It's Jonathan." Eleanor's eyes opened slightly. For a moment they were clear, focused. "My boy, you work too much." It was what she always said. Even now, drifting away, she was worried about him working too much. "I'm taking time off," Jonathan lied. "Spending it here with you." "Liar," Eleanor whispered, but she smiled slightly. "You never could lie to me." Her eyes closed again. Jonathan sat there for another hour, holding her hand, feeling helpless in a way all his money and power couldn't fix. His housekeeper, Maria Santos, found him there at noon. Maria was 56, had worked for Jonathan for 8 years, and had a warmth about her that made the cold, modern mansion feel almost like a home. "Mr. Montgomery, you haven't eaten today. I brought lunch." "I'm not hungry," Jonathan said, not taking his eyes off his mother. "Your mother wouldn't want you starving yourself," Maria said gently. "She'd want you taking care of yourself." Something in her tone made Jonathan look up. Maria was standing at the foot of the bed, looking at Eleanor with an expression that was both sad and thoughtful. "May I ask you something, Mr. Montgomery?" "Of course. When was the last time your mother had real food? Food that wasn't from a hospital menu or a nutritional supplement?" Jonathan thought about it. "I don't know. Months? She hasn't had much appetite. The nurses have been trying to get her to eat, but she refuses most things. And when was the last time someone sat with her and just talked? Not checked her vitals or administered medication. Just sat and talked like a person, not a patient?" Jonathan felt something uncomfortable in his chest. "The nurses talk to her. They talk at her," Maria said. Not unkindly. "Medical talk. But when was the last time someone asked her about her life, her memories, the things she loves?" Jonathan realized he didn't know. In his desperation to save her, he'd turned his mother into a medical problem, a puzzle to solve with enough money and expertise. He'd hired the best professionals to keep her alive, but somewhere along the way, they'd all forgotten she was a person, not just a patient. "What are you suggesting?" Jonathan asked. "Let me try something," Maria said. "Give me 1 week. Let me take care of your mother my way. Not instead of the medical care, but in addition to it. If it doesn't help, you lose nothing. But I think maybe she needs something the doctors can't give her." Jonathan wanted to say no. Maria was a housekeeper, not a medical professional. But his mother was dying despite the best medical care money could buy. What did he have to lose? 1 week, Jonathan agreed. But the nurses stay. And if my mother gets worse, we go back to the medical protocols immediately. Agreed, Maria said. What happened over the next week changed everything. Maria started by opening the curtains in Eleanor's room. Real sunlight, which the nurses had kept blocked to prevent disruption to sleep schedules. She brought in fresh flowers from the garden Eleanor had planted years ago before getting sick. Then Maria pulled a chair close to the bed and started talking. Not medical talk, just talk. "Mrs. Montgomery, my name is Maria. I've been cleaning your son's house for 8 years, but I don't think we've really met. He works too much, doesn't he? You must have worried about him all his life. Eleanor's eyes opened, focused. He was always like that, Eleanor whispered. Even as a boy, so serious, so determined. Tell me about him as a boy, Maria said. What was he like? And Eleanor talked, haltingly at first, then more. Stories about young Jonathan, his first science fair project, his terrible cooking, the way he used to read business books at 12 years old. Maria listened, really listened, asked questions, laughed at the funny stories, and Eleanor talked more than she had in months. The next day, Maria brought soup, not hospital food, real soup, made from scratch with vegetables from the farmer's market. This is caldo de pollo, Maria said, my grandmother's recipe. In my family, this soup has healed everything from broken hearts to broken bones. Would you try some for me? Eleanor, who'd refused food for weeks, took a spoonful. Then another. She ate half a bowl. Every day, Maria cooked something different. Foods with flavor and love in them. Chicken with rice, homemade bread, simple meals that tasted like care. And every day, Maria talked with Eleanor. Not at her, with her. About her life, her memories, her son. Maria brought photos of Jonathan as a child that she'd found in storage. They looked at them together. You raised a good man, Maria told Eleanor. He's successful, yes. But more than that, he's kind. He treats everyone who works for him with respect. That came from you. Eleanor smiled. He got that from his father. I gave him the stubbornness. She was eating regularly now, small amounts but consistent. Her eyes were clearer. She was present more often than absent. The nurses were baffled. Dr. Carlson ran tests, trying to understand what had changed medically. Nothing had changed medically, but everything had changed. On the 6th day, Jonathan found his mother sitting up in bed, talking with Maria about the garden she wanted to plant next spring. His mother was discussing next spring, making plans, thinking about the future. Mom? Jonathan said, his voice breaking. You're sitting up. I'm feeling better, Eleanor said. She looked at Maria. This one has been taking care of me. Real care. Not just keeping me alive, but reminding me why living matters. Jonathan pulled Maria aside later that afternoon. What did you do? The doctors are calling it a miracle. They don't understand what changed. I didn't do anything medical, Maria said. I just treated your mother like a person instead of a patient. I gave her reasons to stay. Conversations, food that reminds her she's alive, memories that connect her to her life. She paused. With respect, Mr. Montgomery, you were so focused on the medical problem that you forgot your mother wasn't sick because something was wrong with her body. She was sick because she was lonely, isolated. All the nurses and doctors and machines made her feel like she was already gone, like she was already just a body to be maintained. I was trying to save her, Jonathan said. I know, but sometimes saving someone means more than keeping them breathing. It means giving them reasons to want to breathe. Eleanor continued to improve. Within 3 weeks, she was walking short distances. Within 2 months, she was having dinner with Jonathan every evening, telling stories, laughing, living. The doctors called it spontaneous remission. Jonathan knew better. He sat down with Maria one evening after Eleanor had gone to bed. I want to hire you, not as a housekeeper, as a caregiver. I'll triple your salary. You can work with my mother full-time, help other families like ours. People who have all the medical care but are missing what you gave her. Maria shook her head. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Montgomery. But I like cleaning houses. It's honest work and I'm good at it. But I'll keep visiting your mother, not for money, just because I care about her, and because everyone deserves to be seen as a person, not just a problem to solve. At least let me pay you for what you've done, Jonathan insisted. You already do. You pay me fairly for my work. You treat me with respect. You let me have Sundays off to spend with my own family. That's payment enough. She stood to leave. Your mother is going to be fine now, but she needs you more than she needs more doctors. She needs her son to sit with her and listen, to share meals, to remember that time is the most valuable thing you can give someone. Not money, time. Jonathan took that advice to heart. He cut his work schedule in half, had dinner with his mother every night, listened to her stories, asked about her life. and in doing so he got to know her again in ways he'd forgotten. 5 years later, Eleanor was 83, and still living independently in the guest house, tending her garden and having dinner with Jonathan 3 times a week. Maria still worked for Jonathan, still cleaned his house, and still visited Eleanor every Tuesday for tea and conversation. At Eleanor's 83rd birthday party, Jonathan gave a toast. 5 years ago, my mother was dying. I'd spent millions on medical care and she was fading anyway. Then Maria, our housekeeper, did something the doctors couldn't do. She treated my mother like a human being instead of a patient. She gave her conversation instead of just medicine. She reminded her that life is worth living. He looked at Maria. You taught me that sometimes the best care isn't the most expensive care. It's the care that sees people as people. Thank you for giving me more years with my mother. And thank you for teaching me that success means nothing if you don't have time to share it with the people you love. Maria just smiled. Your mother did the hard part. She chose to live. I just reminded her it was a choice worth making. If this story moved you, please like and share it with someone who needs reminded that healing isn't always medical, and that sometimes what people need most is to be seen and valued as human beings. Subscribe for more stories about finding humanity in unexpected places. And comment below about someone who cared for you or someone you love in a way that went beyond professional duty. Your story might inspire others to see caregiving as more than a job.